So,
Got your script?
no. Oh, wait, I don't do scripts. So, been a while. So, we shot a podcast and we told some stories back about, it's been about 3 or 4 weeks now. It was between the Kenya trip and the Ivory Coast trip. We did a little conversation. Since then, I've gone to Ivory Coast. You stayed
I stayed
here.
home.
What did you stay home and do?
I stayed home to help out our youngest son Heath and his family with the birth of their newest member, Noah. He came quite a bit early at 31 weeks, but I'm happy to report both mama and baby are doing well and progressing along nicely, and hopefully in the next couple weeks, Noah will get to come home from the hospital.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice.
But that's what I've been doing primarily.
Grandmama-ing.
Grandmama-ing.
Yeah,
Enjoying it.
Your nana-ing.
Yes, I am.
I could tell you were enjoying it. You kind of hit your stride with that the last
I did.
month.
I have. I've enjoyed that tremendously, and taking care of Justice, a little fireball that he is.
But in the midst of that, I abandoned you. I went to Ivory Coast with a vineyard group. Full-time missionary, works primarily in the that part of Africa. I think Ivory Coast.
What part of that? Where is Ivory Coast?
Oh goodness, my geography is pretty bad. It's actually, well, thank you for the hint. It's West Africa. Actually, Ivory Coast is kind of, as Africa kind of does the bend on the west side. It's on the underside of that bend. And you've got Mali right there, and I know they work up in that area. You've got Liberia close, and we had actually representatives. I went for the vineyard, the national conference for Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and so I got to speak.
What was different about Cote d'Ivoire from the other two countries we had been in Africa?
Oh Lordy, one is French.
Did that make a difference?
It was a huge difference. I have to say that I've spent a lot of years in Spanish-speaking countries. I don't speak Spanish much at all, but I realized I speak more of it than I realized because I speak almost zero French, and it was a lot more challenging. Even I have to say that, and I think we had good translators, but my ears are not tuned to hearing English in a French accent. So I struggled more with the language than I have anywhere I've ever been, I think. So that was a bit different. But I enjoyed it. Got to meet some great people and see some impressive work. Some of the things they're doing in Cote d'Ivoire are a little unique. They're different than what I've experienced or seen anywhere else, and it seems to be doing well. They use
now. Let me interrupt you. Cote d'Ivoire and Mali in that area also has a large population of a group that
they're Islamic. It's a heavy Islamic Muslim population. So a great deal of the people that are being reached there are Muslim background, and they're using some tools. They're using what's known as DMM, or disciple making movement model, for church planting, for expanding the gospel in those regions, and they're taking that model, and it's exploding in West Africa. Matter of fact, it's gone from, that's what has happened is they began that in the Ivory Coast, and the families and tribes and people began to take it to their neighbors and friends and such, so that it's spread now into Liberia, into Mali, which are Mali, for one, is much more difficult for us to get into. So the gospel's getting in by seeing people receive the word and changed in Cote d'Ivoire, where we can get in, and then seeing them take it to the areas we can't get in. And so it's pretty exciting to see. I think they've got Uh, I, frankly, they're not sure how many Bible study groups they've got because it's very organic and people start them and they find out about it. The leadership finds out about it sort of after the fact. So, it said anywhere from 150 to 300 Bible studies out throughout the country that are reading the Bible and having Jesus change their lives and come in and seeing Muslims coming to Christ. Fantastic work. It's pretty exciting to see what's going on. And
is there a certain story in particular from somebody you met over there, someone who was Muslim, and then they came to faith in Jesus through this? And
there's let's just say that the majority of stories are going to be people who once were Muslim because that's really who the churches are being built around. Two or three stories that come to mind. One was just very different. For me, I've heard of it, but I had never experienced it. But on the last day we were there, I had a young man come to me on Sunday at the church we were meeting in, and he says that I had a dream last night, and in the dream, I was being tormented by a demon and said, and I saw you in the dream, and you came and you told the demon to leave, and it left. And I knew if I could come to find you here today, that you would be able to get my demon to leave.
And was this guy a Christian yet?
I think he was a new Christian, but he was. I didn't get a lot of his story. I think he was a new believer, but we were able to pray with him and do some deliverance and see change in his life. But that idea of Jesus showing up in a dream, telling him where to go and how to deal with this was pretty interesting. Some of the other stuff we had a day where I did some teaching on prophetic ministry and teaching on healing. Went over the 5-step healing model. Had several of us from that team did some teaching, but towards the end, we took the people who were present and asked how many of them had pain in their body for whatever reason. And we probably had somewhere 175 to 200 people in attendance at this conference, and from all over the country. And we had 30 or so who stood and said they had pain. So I had them come to the front of the room and line up across the front. And then I invited those who've never prayed for somebody to be healed and never seen it happen. Would you come up and stand in front of each one of these? Had one per person up front. And then I walked through just praying for the sick and having them pray. And we've done that before. I mean, it's always exciting because you always see people, surprised by seeing God use them and seeing things happening right there in front of them. And same thing, we saw several people. I mean, I'd say the majority of the people who came forward experienced some kind of improvement, if not complete healing, in their body over that. Well, afterward, they began doing testimonies from those who had been healed. And what struck me was that almost took over the rest of the day. It was well over an hour of people getting up and sharing their story and what had happened and how God had touched them. And then again, the next morning we met and we had another 30 or 40 minutes of people telling stories of what had happened in that experience the day before. Couple of the stories that stood out, there was one woman who said that I've been in pain in my back. Something that happened as a toddler. And I mean, they have said, I've never known a day without pain in my life until yesterday. So when they prayed, my pain left and it has not returned. So that one stood out. Another one that stood out was I had a young boy, probably 10 or 12, something in that range, who had significant eye problems, had some level of blindness, and so as we prayed for him, he said he could see and could see the back wall and could tell you what it said on the wall and things like that. So
Any stories from those who had done the praying, who had never done this before?
I asked. We had a few, saying that I had never experienced that or I'd never seen that, but nothing that jumps out. But again, it's a common exercise that
Right.
we do when we go out. But it's always fun to watch people who are surprised that God used them in that way.
And then the
they,
excitement as
oh,
they're talking amongst themselves, and you really can't understand what they're saying, but you
Yeah.
can see the results
Yeah. well,
of their experience practicing out, teaching and a modeling for them that they'd not done before.
right. I love it because as you're saying, the whole atmosphere in that room is electric as things are happening and they're seeing it happen. So they get so excited, and that's always fun. I love doing that, and it was just pretty special. So anyway, that was our trip. My trip. It was like I said, a very good. It was very, I'd say, successful. We were looking. I was looking one to see an actual um, place they were using that DMM model with success, because I've read about it, heard about it for years, but I actually had never been anywhere they were doing it, and this is one of the areas in the world that they're doing it, and it's being very successful, reaching into unreached people groups. So that's the first time I'd been in that type of environment. That was pretty exciting to me. I really looked forward to it and enjoyed that a lot. And always when you see something like that, you put it in your toolbox, and it sort of shifts the way you think about certain things. So when you see something successful reaching into reaching into the Muslim community with a great deal of impact and success is pretty special. So yes, now the other side of this, I will say this, and this is just those of you who follow us would understand. It was a very long trip, long distance wise. Flying was it's just I had just gotten back from Kenya. I had, I think, a 5 day turnaround, and I'm on another airplane crossing the ocean. So I went from a 10.5 hour flight plus Atlanta leg. So probably 12 hours of flight coming back from Kenya. Uh, and then just a few days later, I'm on I think it was 12 hour, 13 hour flight back over to Cote d'Ivoire. And that might be, I, I, don't quote me on this, but that might be my limit on turnaround. I don't know that I would want to do that again.
Crossing that many time zones repeatedly. You've done it. I've done it twice, but you've done it 3 times in the last 9 weeks.
Probably more like 11 weeks now, but yes, I've done it. I've done 3 Africa trips since November. And that's enough. My body is just now starting to figure out
where it's at.
Where the sun is,
Right.
So it has. It was. I don't remember being any tireder on a trip than I was on that one. I saw my Google Maps, timeline stuff. It sends out a monthly kind of update, and I saw it 40,500 miles since January 1st.
That's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles. Yeah. And,
well, we say Metron is all about increasing your measures. So
oh my word! So
you've increased that But is it still worth it to see other people's measure
Oh,
increase, getting to participate?
It's absolutely worth it, and I whine because I can, but it's I love it. I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else. The truth is, so even if somebody called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, you want to go back to Africa this week?" I'd be a yes. I'd do it. I'd do it. So don't take my whining seriously, because I still love it. Love doing it. But I've had more than 5 days now, so I think I'm all right. But the 5 day turnaround is not one I would plan into my schedule again.
Right.
So
what have we got coming up?
Well, let's start with what we just finished. We also just came out of a 4 day missions conference, the Vineyard Missions Leadership Team. So it's
not a conference.
It's the mission, the leaders in the mission area of Vineyard, which is probably 12, 14 people.
15.
Met in Houston here, so we were at least stayed in Houston, but met here in Houston, had 4 days of meetings, strategizing, and talking about how we're going to continue to move forward and move missions forward within the Vineyard movement and among the Vineyard churches, and like I said, it's a privilege to get to be part of that team, and
they are special people.
They are. I always think, and part of it's just how we're made up, but I always think when I'm with that group, like, these are my favorite people. I mean, these folks, most of them have been doing missions many years. They are passionate for the world, and some of them are, some of my heroes. They're pretty amazing people, and so we enjoy getting to be with them and hang out with them.
But we will be coming at the end of the month, is it? We'll be ministering at a church in San Antonio.
At the end of April.
At the end of April.
End of April, we'll be in San Antonio.
San Antonio.
In between there,
going
over Easter week, we're going to Colombia. So we'll be in Neiva, Colombia, for our Colombian Vineyard National Conference. And Carlos Cantonilla will be going with us, and we'll be spending Easter there.
Yeah.
And be speaking at the Neiva Church on Easter Sunday, and meeting with all of our pastors and leaders in the vineyard, in the nation down there. So I'm excited, because it's been a while, and it's been a long while since we had them all together. So this is it's timely. It's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to that. So we'll be headed down there in about, I don't even know what today is. Probably
we'll leave April 4th.
April 4th, so about 3 weeks. We'll be in about 3 weeks. We'll be going down there. No, today's the 4th, 5th. I don't even know.
Today is the 7th.
Okay, 3 weeks. So
you're in the United States.
Thank you. What time is it? I have forgotten. I never know where I am. It's funny now. So we'll have people call me. I'll have somebody text me or call me, and they'll say, "Where are you in the world?" No, like right this moment, I have to tell them. So, but we'll be doing the Colombia trip. Looking forward to that. And then a couple of things we got going toward. Like I said, June and July, we've got a couple of churches that we've got plans to be in, and then and we will be in Brandon at the Point Church in June. So that's on the books. So those of you in that area, we'd love to see you. And I actually just talked to Bo over at Vineyard Jackson, and I think we may be speaking over there sometime in June also. So that's exciting.
Yeah. But we'll update you as we get closer to other events and as things change and get added to the calendar. But as always, we thank you for joining us on the journey God has us all on. And it's having impact and influence in changing people's lives. we're just honored to be a part of it with you.
Absolutely. So the highlight of the last month is grandbabying.
A baby.
Yeah, yeah. I'd
He's
agree with
adorable.
I'd agree with that. Baby wins
Mm-hmm.
the
Personally, baby wins.
wins the coolest thing of the month.